All right, guys, who are the best and worst sportscasters ever? Please don't put anybody from, I mean, you can. Just help the algorithm. But of all time, comment below the best and the worst of all time. The reason this came up is because Tom Brady's signing with Fox. Do you care? I care. I think it's cool, but I don't watch a football game or a basketball game or whatever because of the commentator. I watch for the game, the importance of the game, what it means in the standings, what it means for the college football playoffs, yada, yada, yada. You get what I'm going with that. So we had that on the show here on TexAgs Rewind, which is brought to you by T-Mobile. I want to remind you to visit T-Mobile.com/across America to learn how you can get value and coverage through T-Mobile. So what else did we talk about? College football games in 2022 that we want to watch. We focused on the September games. But you know what? Thank you, Dalton. I have a focus for another segment where we're going to do all the games throughout the year. But right now, September games. We also had Pat Henry on for our track and field report. Appreciate that. Always good stuff there. Recruiting Country this week with Jason Howell. He gave us some updates from the Metroplex. And Kendall Rogers bringing the heat. If A&M wins the SEC West, they finished first in the SEC West, Jim Schlossnagle should get the Coach of the Year. All that and much more here on TexAgs. I had a lot of coffee today. I can feel it. Rewind. Those are some of the matchups that I am looking at in September. I'm sure I'm missing one or two.
Did you mention Utah, Florida?
I did not mention Utah, Florida. But
Utah, Florida was one that when I kind of started looking at this up, when you told me you were going to do it, it was kind of interesting, right? It's Utah coming off a Rose Bowl game. They ended last year with that wild game against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Playing Florida, which, back in the day, that was like Urban Meyer's first big upset, right? Yeah. At Utah, beat Florida. That'll be a really interesting early test for Napier in his first year at Florida. Playing a team like Utah.
And I think a lot of these early games are interesting because of the coaching change, right? So we talk about Dan Lanning and how Oregon's going to look his first real test. Billy Napier being tested right off the chute as well. I think that is a good one.
I mean, shout out Billy Lucci. He said this a couple years ago when everyone was praising Dan Mullen at Florida. Look who Dan Mullen played in his early games at Florida. Like, he had time to lean into the season, non-conference, as opposed to Jimbo, who was playing – I don't know, Clemson. Yeah. So it makes a big difference. So that's an interesting start to the tenure for Napier.
But I will say this, even though people use some of Jimbo's record against him, it's the same as some of – there's something to be said about taking on the national champion or the potential national champion early on in the season and going toe-to-toe with them and learning about your team and your culture. There's no doubt. Do you have any other ones, Dalton, on your list?
I like the Nebraska-Oklahoma matchup. I know you brought that one up. It'll be cool to see them go to Nebraska and play in that environment. You know that they do not like Oklahoma at all. I know Anna knows all about that, the Nebraska girl over there in the social center.
It just really pains me to see them do the way that they are right now because I'm an Aggie. I've lived in Texas for my whole life, except for the first 4 years of my existence in Nebraska. But it still will always be a special place in my heart. In fact, my Instagram handle used to be Cornhusker_Anna, which I changed immediately when I found out I was coming to A&M. So
I got an unfair question for you. Unfair. And if you don't want to answer, don't answer. Then we'll know your real answer. But if A&M were to play Nebraska, what do you want to happen?
I would want A&M to destroy Nebraska.
I love the way you think.
But it would also, I would want to see Nebraska put up a fight. I would want to see them do well, but ultimately A&M should win. So they would win, but I would need them to win.
So I'm facing this exact same situation this year, Anna Rosa. So check this out. I grew up an A&M fan my whole life. My cousin went to A&M. My brother went to A&M. Obviously, I went to A&M. But my whole life, and my favorite athlete as a child was Charles Barkley and Bucky Richardson. That's just how it was, right? Those are my guys. And but Miami. My oldest brother went to the University of Miami, so I always had Miami as my other team. I had starter jackets that had Miami on it. I loved Miami. I thought about going to Miami. Couldn't afford the Coral Gables lifestyle, but it was definitely in the thought process.
And now they hired a Cuban.
They did. So I got love for
How do you
Miami.
say that name again?
Mario Cristobal.
Okay, thank you.
Mario Cristobal. But
is there a trip that you're looking forward to right now, like in the scope of A&M's schedule for the next couple of years? Then next year you get to go to Miami.
I like how you set that up. Yeah, that's the trip, and that's the one that I'm going to be like, hey, I really think we should get there on Wednesday, just so I can maybe do the show. From
South Beach. We need to do the show from South Beach. We need to have Cuban sandwiches catered. I'll go with you for that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
We'll do that.
I don't travel a ton, but I think you need me there for moral support.
the last Miami trip, I missed out. Gabe didn't announce his departure till I think a month later or two. Well, I guess a couple months later. But I was close. It was close, right? But I brought up the Miami thing is because I'm about to see this, right? For 2 years in a row. Miami versus Texas A&M. And let me go ahead and tell you, I hope A&M wins 90-0 in both games. I don't want Miami to move the ball. I don't want them to score. I may have love for them, but the real love comes with this ring. And I want them to get destroyed. Now, would I like to see them do well against everybody else? Sure. I have a little rooting interest there. But when they take on our team, it's like your kid playing for a team. Like I probably shouldn't bring it up on this show, but if your kid plays for another alma mater, who was it? With the Mannings, right? Archie Manning years ago had to say, do you want the Saints to win or do you want Peyton Manning to win? Are you really going to ask that? It's Peyton Manning. What kind of year have our football guys had for you, Coach Henry, when we talk about A-Chain, when we talk about Bryce Foster? What kind of year have they had?
Both those guys have done real well. Devon, of course, this is his second year with us, and so Devon he's a talented young man, and he hits the track. He's a guy that'll give you everything he's got. So he runs a great second leg on our 4x1. He's run one of the finest 200s in the country. I think he's sitting like number 6 now. So Devon's done a great job. Bryce is doing well. He's not ranked up in there as a big-time shot putter yet, but he's thrown 62 feet, and he just, it really started out about 56 foot, getting used to. In high school, you throw a 12-pound shot. In college, you throw a 16-pound shot. So there is an adjustment period. There's a strength development period. There's a rhythm time. And so all of those things together, he's up to 62 feet now, and I think he's going to continue to get. If he hits one, he's going to throw pretty well right now. But the best in our country right now are 70-plus foot guys, and he's not there yet. It's just a little bit of time for Bryce.
Talking to Pat Henry here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's talk about Brandon Miller getting named to the Bowerman pre-conference watch list. He's had a huge season for you, and just expound on what he means and how he's grown this year.
Yeah, Brandon is a great competitor, and he's a great example for our team, and really any team that watches a guy that's able to do what he does. He's just an awfully good competitor. He's a guy that's, he's about 5'8", and he's lining up against guys that are 6'4" and running 800 meters. And Brandon is just, most people think that he couldn't be in the race. He just doesn't have the makeup, the stature to be in that race. And he proves everybody wrong every time he competes. And so that's what's fun to watch about Brandon.
Let's talk a little bit about Isaiah Robinson. You mentioned last week he's making the rounds, but A&M is certainly in his plans.
Yeah, he should be in this weekend. He's, checked in at 6'5.5", 285 pounds at LSU last week. That's with no shoes on and all that. He's a guy that last summer he came to camp. He was a bit injured. He was working through a back issue, and was having some troubles, on the camp circuit. And this last spring, he's really stepped up his game, playing with a more confident air to him. And A&M is a school. Coach Adazio went by and saw him, and they immediately decided they want to take a visit, unofficial this weekend. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. I think there's a lot of schools involved. Cal, USC, I think Baylor, Texas Tech in there as well. But A&M's taking a good long look, and I could see him end up being a top target, especially at offensive tackle, where it's a bit thin in the state this year.
Jason, I do want to ask you about something you posted last week. You said some things that I'm not worried about. I'll kind of go through a couple of these. Texas A&M's current recruiting class ranking. Why are you not worried? Because there's a really good answer for this, but I want you to explain it to our audience.
Well, it's just so early. And you've got teams like Texas Tech with 20 commitments out there while A&M has 6. So just from a number standpoint, it's going to be skewed towards those with the bigger numbers right now. A&M's going to recruit, at a high level. If they don't take a full class, it's obviously it could mean that they don't hit the number 1 ranking or may miss, a top 5 class. But overall, you're going to see them recruit a high-level athlete. That's not going to change. And as you can see, Javon Thomas, depending on who you talk to, is the number 1 cornerback in the state. He's in that top 2 or 3. Then you've got Bravion Rogers, who, is at TexAgs. We have him undervalued in our rankings, which is going to change when we sit down and talk about it. But Bravion Rogers has had a tremendous spring on the track and to go along with what he does on the football field, and just an elite athlete and that can play multiple spots. So, and then Colton Thomason has really come on strong. I don't think, this time last year we weren't talking about Colton. This time, 2 months ago, we weren't talking about Colton Thomason as an offensive tackle. After seeing him shed the weight and continue to develop his athleticism, you're talking about a guy that could definitely, end up being a tackle prospect. And that's that just goes to show the work ethic that he brings to the table. But the point is, they're going to recruit at a high level. They're going to recruit some of the best in the country, and they're going to sign an elite class, whatever that looks like, whether it's 19, 23, whatever the numbers are, 25 at the end of the day. They're going to sign some elite athletes that are going to make the team better. And at that, I'm not worried about those recruiting rankings, because I don't think it's going to tell the story of this class.
We're talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're talking about RPI a moment ago, but how about DBU yesterday, their big win over Oklahoma State?
Yeah, they're such an interesting case for a regional host right now. We will not have them as a host. I'll tell you what, they're up to 3 in the RPI. They've got 14 wins against top 50 teams. To kind of give you a comparison, A&M has 13, and granted, it's a different group of top 50 teams. But most of A&M's are top 25 RPI teams. But, if Dallas Baptist right now, I think there's 2.5 games out of first place in Missouri Valley. If they find a way to win that regular season title in Missouri Valley and their RPIs in the top 5, they're going to be very difficult to turn down for a top 16 seed. The problem is, they play Evansville this weekend, actually, who leads the league by 2 games. So if they won that series and they find a way to win the regular season title, I think they get a top 16. If they don't win the regular season title of the NBC, I think they go on the road somewhere.
All right, Kendall, who helped their cause for the tournament this weekend or this week in the past 7 days?
Well, the thing that's really interesting to me is just the ACC right now. The ACC is so wishy-washy. Georgia Tech looked to be in good shape. All of a sudden, Georgia Tech gets swept over the weekend. Clemson, who all of a sudden, RPI's at 19, their conference record needs to get better. Kind of more under the radar teams to kind of keep an eye on. Maryland and Old Dominion. Old Dominion is if people remember last year, was a super regional or regional team. And, those guys are red hot right now. They took a series from Southern Miss on the road. And then, if you look at, Maryland, speaking of hosts, right now they are in hosting position out of the Big Ten. They've had a terrific year. The RPI is up to 16. So Rob Vaughn's done a great job there. And I'll mention Florida, too. As we talk about hosts, Florida was a team that 2 weeks ago was a club that we're like, hey, they've got a lot of work to do just to make the field. Even though their RPI was good, their conference record needs to be better. Well, what happens? They've sweet Mississippi State on the road. Suddenly now they have Missouri on the road and then South Carolina at home. Keep an eye on Florida. They're one of those teams that if they can win those final 2 series and win a few games in Hoover, they could end up going from a team that we're wondering if they can make the tournament to a team that's hosting as a top 16.
We're just going to close out with a thought from Dalton Hughes. I love doing this. He doesn't know that I'm going to come to him. Dalton, just give us something to ponder, to think about as we have people like, comment, subscribe. Anything you can add.
The Dallas Stars take a 3-2 series lead tonight. You're welcome.
Can I add this? You know, we're from Houston, but we love the Mavericks because I worked there. My kids absolutely love Luka Doncic.
Doncic?
Doncic? I don't know. He's just Luka.
Adios.
Now, real quick.
Oh, yeah,
he's a Real Madrid fan. And he played there. Just saying. It is TexAgs Rewind.